Welcome to the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum's Zoom series, Trolleyology. My name is Kristen Fredrickson. I am the coordinator of volunteers, public outreach, and programming at the museum. Thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks to those who have been joining us for these programs. Welcome back. Over the next few months, through May actually, we'll be sharing programs featuring Pennsylvania transit history topics and stories about our collection that you can experience from home. And these are going to run about every 2 weeks until we run out. And so far we're scheduled through mid-May. So if you have a show that you're interested in presenting that fits the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum mission, please reach out to me at assistant@patrolley.org. You can find that email address on your confirmation or reminder email that you got today before joining the program. And you can see the full list of upcoming Trolleyology presentations on our website at patrolley.org. And I can share that in the chat in just a few minutes so you can click on it and see what's coming up. And I want to extend a special thank you to those of you who donated during your registration tonight. Your support means everything, and it really helps even the smallest amount. We really appreciate your support of our virtual outreach programs. And it's so nice to be able to reach people like literally across the world tonight. So we do have some people who are familiar with the museum, some who volunteer here, but I like to introduce the museum before every presentation. We were established in 1954 as the Arden Electric Railway by a group of trolley enthusiasts called the Pittsburgh Electric Railway Club. And the museum opened to visitors a few years later in 1963 and is located along the trolley line between Pittsburgh and Washington, PA. You'll find almost 50 trolleys and electric railway cars here, about 20 of which operate. And there's about 30,000 people who visit the museum every year and take the 4-mile scenic ride. And we are planning to reopen on April 2nd this year. Our opening weekend will be April 2nd and April 3rd. So I hope you guys can join us. If not on opening weekend, then sometime during the season. And now I would like to introduce today's presenter, John Nicholson. John is a native Chicagoan and a lifelong electric traction enthusiast. He is currently president of Central Electric Rail Fans Association. He's a 57-year member. And he's the associate managing editor of First and Fastest, published by the Shoreline Interurban Historical Society. And his family has been involved with Chicago's L from day one. His great-great-grandfather was the Southside Elevated's first master mechanic when it opened using steam power in 1892. And I first saw John's Red Arrow presentation last summer when he presented it for the CERA, and I thought our PTM members would really appreciate seeing it too. So thank you, John, for coming back. We should be here about an hour and a half tonight, and we have a built-in intermission if we think we need one. So this program will also be available on our YouTube channel within the next couple weeks. And at the end of the presentation, we will have a question and answer session with our presenter, but the chat box will be open. So feel free to enter questions and comments during the show, and we can read through those at the end. And I'll also invite you to turn on your microphone and your video at the end. But please keep them off during the show. And that's all I have. So John,
okay,
take it away.
Let me go in here. Let me see. Just stop other screen sharing. You want to continue? What do I hit here? Do I hit yes?
Yes. And then you'll select your PowerPoint.
There I am. Okay. And here we go. All right. I will slideshow from current slide. And okay. And we are all set to go. I want to welcome all of you to this presentation. I'm glad to be here. I'm going to turn my video off in a little while, just so you don't have to look at me, going through my notes or whatever. But for tonight, even though this view was taken in 1941, for this evening, we'll say I'm in the Tavern Lounge car of the Liberty Liner. Anyway, we'll go on here to the feature presentation. And this is Red Arrow Lines. There'll be scenes from 1940 to the present. The Philadelphia and comprising the Philadelphia and Westchester Traction Company, Philadelphia and Western Railway, Philadelphia Suburban Transportation Company. Now, to say that the Red Arrow Lines was one of the most successful traction companies in North America is evidenced by the fact that it's still running. Today, you can see this is a current contemporary map showing the routes that are still in service. Route 100 up from 69th Street up to Norristown, and then the light rail lines going here to 101 and 102 to Media and Sharon Hills. The other lines that have been abandoned over the years were Ardmore and to Westchester, and then the P&W to Stratford. This is a view as to how these looked originally, and let me stop my video here. I'm going to get out of here. And okay, so this is how the lines looked originally. The original line here going out to Westchester, the main line was completed around 1899, Ardmore in 1902, Sharon Hill in 1906, and then Media in 1913. The builders originally were hoping to eventually extend their service all the way into Center City over the Market Street Elevated Railway. They built they had the compatible track gauges, and the first sets of equipment that were received were very interurban-like in construction, and they were built to observe the Market L's clearances. However, they could have had access similar to what the North Shore Line and the Chicago and Elgin had in Chicago, but and currently the CTA has had a stance where they do not like tenants, and even way back then, obviously Philadelphia PRT did not like tenants either, because by 1914, Red Arrow had basically given up. This is not moving. What's going on here? Hang on.
Did it stop advancing?
I can't advance it.
Oh, let's see. Try hitting maybe escape.
Okay.
Not do anything.
I hit escape, and this is weird. No,
It always works for the first few slides, and then it messes up.
Well, yeah. What I can't. Oh, here. Okay, now I got out of escape. So now we will. Let's see what happens here as we move on. Okay.
Yeah, view from current slide, and you should be good.
Yeah. I will go to this one then. Fine. All right.
Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Thank you very much. All right. And again, we're just showing the contemporary maps that the original lines, going to Westchester and Ardmore are gone, but today you can still ride these routes out of 69th Street under auspices of SEPTA. And we'll get into some equipment here on the line that operated over the years, from 1940 to the present. This view going on 1941, we have an array of equipment at Lanark. And the occasion was the arrival of the Brill liners from Brill, the last rail cars that Brill ever built. And going from left to right, we see number 42, which was built by Jewett in 1914. Number 59, built by Brill, 1925. 83, built by Brill, of what they call the 80 series cars from 1932. And then the Brill liners, number 2, came out from Brill in 1941. The oldest, some of the oldest equipment still operating at the time on the line were the 1914 Jewett cars, 40 through 44. It Brill 77E high-speed trucks. Originally, the line was envisioned as an interurban, but as the dreams of through operation into Center City died, subsequent equipment became more of a suburban trolley operation instead. And 43, this is a view here on Media Line 1946. This car had 3 more years to go and was finally withdrawn from service and scrapped in 1949. Another view here on the 43 arriving at 69th Street, Fort Sharon Hill, Gene Van Dusen slide from July of 1945. Next group of cars, they had three different groups built center door cars, 45 to 54 by Brill in 1919, 55 to 64 by Brill in 25, and 65 to 76 by Brill in 1926. The first group at 45 to 54, most of those were gone by the end of the 1940s. This particular one here, number 60, is one of the group from 1925 built by Brill, and there were in that group there were 10 cars. And we'll have a chance, of course, to look over the how these liveries changed over the years. This is probably one of my favorites as far as the color and everything else. And of course, it's probably a little more complicated with all the silver striping and stripes on stripes. But this view is we're at Wendilla Road on the Arbor Line back in 1949. As you can see, then the idea was to simplify, and many properties did that. So you see a newer version of the older scheme, and also to modernize the paneled over the arched upper sashes, and this is how basically how they appeared in their final years of operation on Red Arrow. And they had a group of 3 cars from that they acquired from the Philadelphia Rapid Transit. These were known as the Hog Island Cars, numbers 25 through 27. These were basically for rush hour trippers, usually for short-term trips, because they were slow and they were not very popular with the riders. They just had longitudinal wooden benches, but they handle the standees, and that's why they were dear to management. So they got their money's worth out of them, and they came in just in time for the wartime traffic. Another view of the car at Lanark, and showing it in it's a little more modernized scheme. It certainly brightens it up a bit, and that was a shot here going in 1954, Ray Groot. But these cars were gone by about 1958, mid-1958. They were withdrawn from service, and you can see some of them languishing here over at Lanark. And this is a shot here in 1964. And number 77, the 80 series cars. They came up from Brill in 1932. Had Brill 89 E1 trucks. And these were fast cars. They were used mainly on the Westchester and Media lines, and they could, word has it from the old timers who've talked to me about it, they could hit about 70 miles an hour on Westchester, which is amazing for basically being the side of the road trolley line. And Merritt Taylor Jr. We used to order Red Arrow trolleys from me when I was selling them years ago, and he would call up and order, and then he would start going into stories, and he would talk about how when he was in college, he and some friends would go down on a Sunday night to Lanark and sign out an 80 series car and fan trip it on the Westchester line. He said, after all, my father was the president of the railroad, so why not? And that's what they proceeded to do. And they could, he said, they could really open it up, and these cars had impressive speed. Another view in the a later scheme, sitting out in front of Lanark in 1955. And 81 again has received the trend to simplify, and 81 here is at 1969 Richard Short picture, and you see the livery changes on that. And then later on, they went to a SEPTA tried a gold scheme, gold and off-white with a maroon stripe. Generally, metallic finishes have not been that successful for transit operations, and this is not one of the more, I'd say, favorite ones. However, a lot of the local fans liked the paint scheme that was dubbed the Gulf Oil paint scheme, and we'll see later on a few Gulf Oil signs, and you'll understand how it got that moniker. This is 86 over at 69th Street in January of 77. Philadelphia does get snow, and as it's evidenced here. This is the last set of cars that were ever built by Brill, the 1 to 10, 1941, and this is that view from 1941 when the car was the new kid on the block. It had just arrived. View here on near Drexel Hill Junction in 54, again with the newer scheme. And simplified paint scheme on Westchester Pike, just as it's ready to turn into Lanark. And had the leads that crossed over and went into the facility. And it's a rated route picture there. And again, these cars also received the gold paint scheme. And I don't, again, my own prejudice coming right, was not crazy about it. Fortunately, as a custom model railroad painter, I've never been asked to paint one of these in that scheme, and I have right of refusal as well. And later on into the gold scheme here in outbound at Walnut Street on the Media Line in 1978. Last of the Red Arrow cars to arrive, and they were really nice cars. These were the ones with 11 through 24, built by St. Louis Car Company in 1949. They had a really fast, sleek, modern PCC type look, but fortunately, unlike PCC cars, they were equipped with St. Louis trucks, which made for a better ride. These are also fast cars, and I kind of wish this is the car that if Milwaukee Rapid Transit and Speed Rail had the Capital, this is what they should have gotten, because they could run these in MU, and they were certainly much better riding than the secondhand curbside clunkers that they got from Shaker Heights. But again, these were good cars, and they were basically used on Westchester and Media for their service for their speed. And of course, they had a dedication of that was it number 14 out at Philadelphia Pennsylvania Trolley Museum back in 04, and Merritt Taylor himself ran the car through broke the banner and put it into service. The last group of cars here was built by Kawasaki. 29 double-end cars were built by them in 1980. It's really hard to believe that these cars are 41 years old. You think of a 41-year-old trolley, you think it's going to be made of wood or all kinds of heavily riveted metal with a Peter Smith stove inside for heat. But these cars have been around all that time, and they've been very, very reliable cars. They've got some good pickup to them, and they've been. It's too bad more of the lighter, newer equipment could not have been as successful as these cars. But, they're still going. And in 2013, Car 38 was repainted for to commemorate 100 years of service to Media. And for the bus fans, okay, I think this is a 41 Mac, but someone can pop up on the shatter box and correct me. But this view here is at Victory Avenue in November of 1954. And we have obviously some TDH 4512s parked out awaiting assignments. And 250 here is a TDH 5106 in a by now it's in SEPTA colors, but still SEPTA ownership, but still maintaining the Red Arrow Line's identity. Another view here on Westchester Pike in probably early 1950s. TDH 4512. This is signed for Westgate Hills, and it could be by this time that service to Westchester had ended. The tracks in the foreground were either the truncated operation to Westgate Hills, which ended in 1958, or just simply for access to the Lanark shops, which these tracks remained in place until 1971 when the shops closed. Now, view here at 69th Street Terminal, Upper Darby. This all opened originally in 1907, and you can see how it has evolved. This is the current configuration with the 72nd Street shops here for the Norristown high-speed cars. Here's the regular Red Arrow broad gauge suburban car terminal, and how after the you see here after Atlantic was abandoned, the cars were serviced here at 69th Street, and the special section track here was built to service those cars. But it is quite a complex. It's a complex. It's a lot to see, and a lot of fun to go through and roam around. The original terminal as built, as you can see, was all kinds of problems. It was obviously this was it was almost like it was a mad model railroader who built this, who loved to build switches, and unfortunately, everything is built here. It caused all kinds of bottlenecks, and it was not a very efficient track plan. So then, in 1936, a new terminal was built, more modest and yet very modern looking, very Art Deco influenced, and it had a line of a couple of loops in here for boarding for the Red Arrow cars for the various routes, and also then storage here off to the left, and buses came in and looped around here. You have transfers between bus and rail, and there are a series of retail shops along here. And at this time too, Upper Darby was a very strong commercial shopping area. In many cases, this was the end point for many riders, rather than continuing on into Center City. Views over the years is a view probably about circa 1954, and you can see there is all kinds of activity happening. The market Frankfurt cars looping in the background, cars in storage here, buses in, and then cars all lining up and loading for probably rush hour. You got a 2-car train headed outbound in this view, and of course there's the sign for locally brewed Schmitz beer and ale. Now, this is a view I took in August of 1971. That was my first trip to Philadelphia, actually to ride the Red Arrow. And I came in on the morning Broadway Limited from Chicago. I just did a 1-day stand, and I took the nighttime Broadway Limited back to Chicago. But I got a lot of riding in, and Red Arrow for that particular trip was the goal of the trip. And again, it's really kind of fun if you just want to get photographs. Just watch cars go by out in front of the terminal. It was a great opportunity, and you have these cars operating in all kinds of weather, and service was fairly dependable. I've got one of the 1932 Brills. When I was out there in '71, they were basically running them for school service. I went there in '71 and '76, and I was able to and then finally got a chance to ride one, which was the highlight of my trip. And number 5 here is departing 69th Street in 1954. A lot of this could have been a nice publicity photograph by the company, showing the coordinated transit between the trolley and bus, as trolley's is already headed out for Sharon Hills, while the bus is still waiting to take passengers out to Town Square. And there is our Gulf Oil sign, which was the inspiration for the paint scheme. And this particular view here is over in March of '64, and we have I have a grill liner and an 80 series. And back around 1948, one of the Hog Island cars was being used. As you can see, everybody is pretty well. Sorry about that. Let me go back here. Everyone here is pretty well lined up on those longitudinal seats, and I'm sure we've got a few strap hangers in there. And these cars had 1 more year to run. No, I'm sorry, they were until '58. My mistake. General view here, we're looking at the Looking at number 6 and number 84. The 1959 view, and then a view here of a number 12 on the Westchester Pike coming into the terminal. And at this time, this date on this was back in December 1953. Edward S. Miller shot, and so the cars were still running all the way out to Westchester. Another view of a 80 series car at speed along the Pike, and that's over just along the Pike in 1965. And a couple of cars here on the over near the entrance, the lead tracks to the Lanark Barns, 64, 24, and Real 80. Another view right again, just over by Lanark, and I see little details here with their red arrow type of car stop to identify the stops. And you see the lead in here to the Lanark shops. This is number 11, going back in 1954. Lanark shops themselves, they were first open around the time that the line began operation around 1899, and they continued into service until October 30th, 1971, when the maintenance and repair was consolidated over at 69th Street. This is a view of the layout. As you can see here, coming in off of Westchester Pike and down, and up on here was an embankment, was the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Newtown Square branch, so they call that the Trolley Hill. And this track here, they built a temporary track to the Pennsylvania Railroad here when they were unloading shipments of trolleys from 1941 and 1949. And you'll see other parts of the complex, the paint shop, the regular car repair shop, and also the coal pockets for bringing coal into the powerhouse. You hear of Ed Lanark at the Chop in the Yards, 1966. Interior view, everything is like any good shop. It's crowded and busy. But Peter's got this photo for us, and they did have a car washer at Lanark, and number 15 is going through there circa 1959. And typical of any traction company, the motto is never throw anything away. It can always be repurposed, and that was the case with number 67 here, which was then converted into a radio repair shop, and it's just planted up on resting on ties, and view here at Lanark in 1950. And this view here of number 1 gives us a view of the coaling facilities here for the powerhouse coming in off of the Pennsylvania Railroad, and that's another view from 1954. That's snow sweeper number 2. They had a good array of snow fighting equipment and keep the line open at all times. Nowadays, it's kind of like shut it down, let the sun take care of it. But back then, there was a dedication to keeping the line open and maintaining service. Number 2 was looking pretty good, even though it dated back to McGuire in 1902. This one did not look so good, and it was a rotary that they had, which was awaiting scrapping. This view in 1954. Lincar 07 used to, at one time, had been built by Edgemont in 1911, originally as a freight motor for the Philadelphia and Westchester, and again repurposed stuff, and you can get they got decades of use out of this. And going on now to over here at number 7, just resting out in front of Lanark. about circa 1946. And other views here, number 74. This is 1949, so it looks like it's just been in fresh paint, and they're in the newer paint scheme. You see how much brighter the red is compared to the all deep maroon or deep red paint scheme that they'd had. It's really nice looking car, really brightened it up quite a bit. You hear of number 7 in an earlier paint scheme in front of the powerhouse in 1946. And this is pretty much what after the Lanark shops closed down. This is in view 1973. So it shows how the coming here off of Westchester Pike, the track just ended beyond Keystone Avenue, and it's going to be used for storage, and then everything was moved on in over to 69th Street complex. I'll take a ride on the Red Arrow. We can begin with the Westchester Line. It's the original line, 19 miles long, longest of all the routes. Ran from Westgate Hills to Westchester. That part was abandoned June 6, 1954, and then the remnant from 69th Street to Westgate Hills, that was abandoned August 23rd, 1958. So heading on out here, number 5 is by near Lanark Junction in 1965. In view of Lanark Junction itself, traffic veering to the right continued on up to Ardmore, and number 13 is headed out to Westchester. And view is 1953, and of course, like any operation, you do track work, and then you abandon that part of the line a year later. This is at Westgate Hills, which was the end of the double track out to Westchester. Beyond that point, there was single track with passing sidings. You have numbers 24 and 14 are westbound here in September 1950. And again, this ended up being the terminal from 1954 to 1958. Last day of service on the Westchester Line was back on June 6, 1954. A number of groups. Here you see the NRHS chartered a couple of the center door cars, and this is at St. Albans Siding in Newtown Square. And there's a ridership on the line was very healthy, and one of the solutions might have been to double track the line, but Highway Authority wanted that extra space for their own uses, and usually if the highway people want something, they're going to get it. And having them to relocate the track or whatever, the Red Arrow felt better to more economical to simply do buses. So that is what happened. A typical view of the operational on the Westchester Line, just the side of the road running, but as I said, it was very fast. And this is 19 just along the Westchester Pike, and typical of this part of Pennsylvania, many old buildings. And having been, I went to high school in Phoenix, Arizona, and if you had a building that was built, let's say, in 1985, it would go on the Register of Historical Places or whatever. But here, this stuff is old, 18th century. Typical view here of the side of the road operation, and just coming into its siding. And one of the other overpasses, because it could have been for cattle or something at one time. 84 was in the wintertime. It could certainly kick up the snow. It'd probably be nice that not to be a motorist right alongside the line when one of these cars went roaring by. And this is our show card over here. 14 and 24, the Patrick Avenue siding, typical of the waiting for a meet. Looks like obviously it's a special, and people are wandering around with cameras. Another view, just giving you an idea of how one of these passing sightings looked, and obviously the highway people wanted to widen that and get 2 more lanes in there. The same view we saw earlier, just before, just a closer shot again of a 20 and a Senator car on the out on the line on the last day. Continuing along, we had a number of troubles. This is Outbound at Edgemont. Again, a Gulf Oil sign here. This is basically just kind of running on the soft shoulder of the road, and the car stop was right here, and sometimes they could just trade off and carry magazines or newspapers and hand them off. There's a picture in DeGraw's book of one of those handoffs being done. Over here onto this is the by East Milltown Station along Westtown Way on the Westchester Pike, number 14, which you can ride today out of the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum. And another day from the last one here. Everybody is all out for pictures and just you could call it an observance. It wasn't a celebration, obviously. The only people celebrate if you were from National City Lines. This is the bridge for the Route 202 bypass when it was under construction. The terminal, kind of as cute. It was really a nice little unprepossessing end of the line here on Gay Street and Gay and High Street in Westchester. And this year is in 1954, just about a month before service. Well, actually, just about 3 weeks before service ended. And on occasion, you get a feel of what could have been its interurban present feeling on the line. With 44 was out there at the end of the line in 1940s. There's a picture taken by Alan Lake Rice, who is also known to model railroaders as Eric Linnell. And elevated view showing a car heading back towards 69th Street. And again, this is 1954. It's really a nice little view. It's like it could be something you'd be inspired to model. The Ardmore line, that was 5.2 miles in length, abandoned on December 29th of 1966. It opened in 1902. We want to catch our car at 69th Street. There's our sign, but we don't have our car yet. Sharon Hill is at its berth and ready to go, and we shall shortly board our car and head on out, as we are on roll liner number 8. And again, over here at Lanark Junction on Westchester Pike, and this car is coming in from Ardmore. Two-car train at Blandillo Road in the 1949, the older paint scheme, and deep red, brown doors. And the Ardmore line was really kind of nice and neatly maintained, and had some very nice sections here. Rail maintained double track, even though the rail was light. It was a comfortable ride, and then they had other sections of some single track street running and things. It was a very interesting line to ride, a lot of fun to photograph. And they did intersected the P&W at Ardmore Junction. This particular view is at the Liberty Liner in May of 1964. So they had just been in service for so the end of January. So they were relatively new, and they were able to have a meet here. It was really a nice look. It was a nice outing. Another view in an earlier time at Ardmore, and it's number 13, 1954, and they had some nice little stone shelters here. P&W has never won any awards for station architecture. It was serviceable, and that was about it. Another view of 63 looking the other way at Ardmore Junction from the same fan trip in 1964. And this is 63 is over on Brookline Boulevard in December of 62. As a matter of fact, it was exactly 4 years to the day that the line was abandoned. From this view. On that last day, which was December 29th, 1966, they had this speaker number 4 was out trying to keep the line clear. However, the snow was so bad that service between Oakmont and Ardmore Terminal itself was suspended, and they had to run a shuttle. The view on a little further along here, they had a short stretch of single track street running on Lippincott Street on the line. And then going here, arriving at Ardmore in 1960, big short picture. I'm thinking like those two boys on the left there. They are older than I am. I'm going to be 72 in next month. Number one here at the end of the line, it was a very, very basic and plain Jane facility, just a platform. At one time, there used to be a shed, and it was much more elaborate, but that was all scaled back over the years. Jim Buckley picture. I think we showed this earlier, but it always merits another view. 1949. Again, it's very, very simple, but that's all you needed. And then a view here 15 years later, and back in a holdover from American Rococo back with the days of the tail fins. Big cars, tail fins, push button drive, tuck and roll upholstery. Now the view here, and this is the day before abandonment. As you can see, this is at Oakmont with doing the transfer. Car has arrived here, and he'll change ends and then cross over. Well, this other car has just departed. Passengers then were transferred over to buses to complete the trip to the end of the line. Once service ended on December 29th, the line was dormant for a while. As you can see here, this is a view north from Lanark Junction along Darby Road in March 1967. And the overhead wire is already down. Rails are rusted. They're going to be the next thing to be removed. And Red Arrow had this great idea. We'll have run a busway over this route. And Taylor and the management thought, oh, this is going to be so much more, better than running trolleys, which would bankrupt you. And so they paved everything over the right of way. They were able to buy crossing gates from the North Shore Line. And they came in at the time of the Liberty Liner sale. So when the bus would go by, these gates would go down, blocking access to any vehicle other than the Red Arrow buses. Media line, that's 8.6 miles, still operated by SEPTA, and that was the last line built in 1913. Branched off of the Sharon Hill line, built to somewhat higher standards, so cars could get up and go. A view here at the number 6 here at departing 69th Street, July of 61. 7 at Upper Darby. I know it was Natalie Wood movie was playing over there, Web of Evidence or whatever, and kind of a gray day, and post office truck in the days when they were blue and white with the red band. The 23s is inbound at Fairfield Avenue in Upper Darby. And I took this on one of my trips there in July of 1976. And a Gulf oil paint scheme here, outbound at Walnut Street, 1978. And Bywood, and by this time we're going into October of 1981. And it's kind of typical of the line out here, kind of a rolling profile, and the block stations, and I had a very nice, very good service too. Hilltop Road, and you can see how it kind of undulates, and but the cars could move along, and they were very snappy runners. You here at Naylor's Run Trestle, 1953. Kind of have a grade in the middle of the trestle, which is interesting. Kind of humps up there. And another view, descending Naylor's Run Trestle back in February of 1971, exactly 50 years ago. And 85 here is a car over at Drexel Park. And headed for Trolley Hill. And similar view here, 1976, one of my trips. And this view here is at the Drexelbrook siding. And this goes back to October 12th, 1982, which was the last day of the old cars running on Red Arrow. And as you can see, changes are being made in the overhead to accommodate the pan operation for the Kawasaki cars. So there were, so sad to see the cars go. Fortunately, many of these were saved. And this is over Drexelbrook Trestle, Darby Creek. Get over near Springfield Road, and 1963. And Paper Mill Road was a good spot for photographers. You had a nice elevated view of the cars crossing over. Same location, just down on the ground. And it's don't have a date on that, but by then it's a SEPTA operation. Same Red Arrow paint scheme, but they've just slapped the SEPTA logos on the cars. And here we are over by Springfield Mall. This had become a good source of for riders, good destination for riders on the line. Not having been living in the area in 15 years, I don't know what the status of that is. So many of these shopping malls were hot properties at one time, and then they would go into steep decline and become ghost towns. So maybe someone in the chatterbox could update us on that, or update me on that anyway. You here, I've 1971 over at Smedley Park, and it's just the car is just rolled over the trestle and heading on in to 69th Street. You here at Pine Ridge, 1957. And Providence Road, Bowling Green. And the car here is kind of a gray December 1957 day, and back in the days when men still wore hats. Same view of the this car going the other way. And this is number 24 is over at Bowling Green on the media line. And you can see here we've got a 24, yeah, inbound in the media. This is like we have I believe it's Bowling Green, but the old Divco truck, very popular for dairies back in the days when there were milkmen. You back again here at Paper Mill Road again. This time we're in the cars in the we're in the SEPTA era. And this is number 7. Just a typical view along the media line. And it had the nice little touches though, like the iron fence between the tracks, and very kind of blended in with everything. It didn't impose itself on the neighborhood. The later last cars now in its current form with the double end Kawasaki cars running on the service that's been rebuilt in good service, but you kind of miss the old cars, but you're glad that we still have this. And it's number 13 on State Street. They had the street running, single track street running, going on the way to the rest of the way in the terminal. I kept thinking, having lived in Doylestown for 8 years, it was kind of reminiscent of when the Philadelphia Rapid Transit also ran up on single track street running on into downtown Doylestown. You hear number 15 on State, and I see a taxi driver was playing, so that gives us a chance to date the photograph here from 1976. 73 in operation in 1982. This car is now going to be undergoing restoration at the Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, and if they do as nice a job in this as they have on the many of the other cars there, this is going to be a real gem, and well worth a trip to go out and ride it. End of the line here at in the media here, the early 1950s, and just to the right beyond is the where they went through several incarnations of the Acme Supermarket, from the 1950s with its 40s and 50s with its tile, and it has a real old-fashioned supermarket look to it. And then later on, it was being redone. They're open during remodeling. Now they're going to give it a pseudo mansard roof, and we're going to be modernizing it here. This view here is going in Bastille Day, 1966, July 14th, and you had a 7 and 1 at the end of the line. Good photo opportunity. Sharon Hill's line also is still operating. It's 5.25 miles long, and it said this had been built in 1906. Now we're going to get over here at 69th Street and ride our car on out to Sharon Hill, and have a Brewliner and both oil steam. And my only comment on this is, thank God striped pants never caught on, and horrible to look at. Number 79 here at departing, and that's going to Springfield, I guess. Yeah, we're at 69th. This is 1954, older shot. Inbound, 1970. And another view here, we saw that earlier at Drexel Hill Junction. And this is how it looked at that time. This is 1954. No, I'm sorry, this is 1966. This is one of many fan trips around the area. Same location. 1974. Then we're back over the Darby Creek, 1949. And a view here at the trestle. And this is number 18. This is on my taken from my first trip out there in July and August 1971. This is over at Madison and Springfield in Clifton Heights on the Sharon Hill line. And some nice curves through there, taken the same day at Broadway and Ogden. And as a view, the photographer was purchased above by then the Penn Central embankment, looking down. This is in Alden on the farewell trip of the old cars in October 17th, 1982. Obviously, the rail fans have turned out, so a lot of guys are running around with cameras. Number 6 here at Alden again, and there's the Pennsylvania tracks in the background. There's the electrified service. And I got this view just standing up on the embankment. Therefore, some very good compositions and photos. Just instead of just your typical 3/4 quarter shots. And 76, by then they're running newer cars. When I was first there in 70.
Oh, we may have temporarily lost John. We'll see if he gets back on here in a second. John, can you hear us?
1963.
Oh, there he is.
Hello?
It froze on my computer for a second, but it might have just been me. Sorry about that.
No, it was mine. Mine said your connector's on the way. Let's hope that doesn't occur again. That's what you get for using AT&T. I'm sorry. Okay, well, this is again at 1971 view here at McDade Boulevard. And end of the line for a fan trip, 1967. And that little kid there is probably counting the days to his retirement. Number 5, end of the line again. The terminals were very termini were very simple on the line, and this car is laying over, ready to head back into Sharon Hill. And at this point, and again, we have the pictures here showing a 110 now in service. And earlier view when they had more color on the car. Now we can have a 10-minute intermission, or we can continue on. We have about another 25 minutes to go.
Yeah, let us know in the chat if you want us to keep going or if anyone needs a break. Of course, this is Zoom, so if you get up and take a break, nobody will know. But we did have a question that I wanted to ask while we're determining whether we're taking an intermission. Someone asked, Catherine Black, did any of the Jewetts survive?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
I have to say. Yeah, they some of these cars they went in at a time when before a lot of the groups became organized to save equipment.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and that's what we're seeing in the chat too. All right, it appears to be a landslide. Everybody says keep it moving, keep going, please. So
very good. Okay.
All right, keep going.
Okay. Well, we are now going to go on to the Philadelphia and Western, and this line, when it opened, it opened two different routes. It went from 63rd Street, the PW station. Then later on, they moved it to 69th Street. That opened in 1907, and then later on, they had an extension then from Villanova Junction to Norristown in 1912. When it opened, it was operating at 730 volt DC, which caused some problems later on for Red Arrow. For LVT cars, their older motors and things, and so that happened. But later on, it was changed to 650 volt DC by Philadelphia Suburban Transit in 1953 after they acquired control. Days back when they terminated in the middle of the street in Norristown and at Swede Street. So this is how it looked in 1912, and the 69th Street Terminal, and here was Villanova, and the line going out to Stratford. That was an early casualty because you had the Pennsylvania Railroad operating an electrified suburban service that would take you directly in to Center City. No change of cars at in Upper Darby at 69th Street. And this ridership was always kind of not all that strong on Stratford. The line did much better then when it extended on into Norristown in 1912, and at that time, Lehigh Valley Transit gained operating rights over the P&W and into the 69th Street Terminal. This is how this line looks today, and they have a new transportation center in Norristown. Now the older cars here. This is one of the ones down at Penn's Landing, number 46. That was built by St. Louis Car Company in 1907. They were 22 cars, and half were retired in the 1920s, and the other half were gone with the arrival of the Brill Bullets in 1931. 46 was continued to survive because it was converted to an emergency car in 1928 and was numbered 446. Moss green paint, and Brill 27 MCV trucks, but it was a wide car, 10 feet 4 inches wide. 51 and 52 were built by Brill in 1922. Again, these were wide cars, 10 feet 4 inches, and these cars lacked steps, so they could not operate to Norristown at the time because you needed to you need to unload in the street. And 166, that's originally we call that number I guess number 6 in that series from Brill about 1929. And we were known these as the Stratford cars. It was 72nd Street shops in 1956, and still, even though Red Arrow has had control for a couple of years, it's still in the still lettered for Philadelphia. Well, it is Village Suburban Transit. Some of these were still in Philadelphia and Western for a number of years, and you can see 446 that we had seen earlier at Penn's Landing. There it is in its emergency car, looking in very nice paint actually. And 164, this is a shot again over near 72nd, Andy McGinnis's collection. Again, the Stratford cars and the Bullets went through various paint schemes, largely during the SEPTA era, and I leave it to your individual judgment to whether they're worth looking at or not. So once that was 160 at 72nd Street shops, and then another view here at Villanova in 1984 when it did receive the official SEPTA paint scheme. And actually, it was not that bad looking. Well, then a dramatic change occurred for the Philadelphia and Western with the arrival of the Brill Bullet cars, designed under a team headed by Dr. Thomas Conway Jr., and he had also been involved with the design of the Cincinnati Lake Erie Red Devils. These turned out to be a much more successful design, and they ran many, many years longer than the Red Devils. Unfortunately, they still had these Brill 89 E2 trucks, and they were never really, they're fast, but they were never really rode well. Here's one still, number 203. It's over in 1946 Dave Cope shot, and is still the Philadelphia and Western lettering. These cars, this color in between here, you know, I haven't got a custom painter. They said that it was not cream or buff, it's called apricot. And 202 is here in at 72nd Street shop in 1950. That looks like it's 446 there to the right. And now we go on to a potpourri of paint schemes. I have a shot here with the view of just a modern, modified Philadelphia, you know, Red Arrow PW paint scheme, maroon and off-white, and then with the orange and the I think the maroon band. And this is you here at King Manor in 1976 again. This is probably my least favorite of their paint schemes. Why, you know, I don't know why they did all this. I guess it's for safety or whatever. And then, like the Stratford cars, the Bullets did receive the official SEPTA paint scheme number 209 as they were at King Manor in March of 1976. Interior of one of the Bullets, view here in 1978. That's Doug Peters' wife and his son, and they were, you know, they're nice cars to ride. They certainly were fast. However, they were getting old, and there were all kinds of equipment failures, service failures, and they had to have some kind of equipment that could, so the schedules could still be maintained. And so then CTA cars came to the rescue. They ended up getting 7 sets of CTA 6000 series cars. These are the very first batch, the flat doors, and this shows 61, 62 at 72nd Street shops in October 1986. And some of them were in the CTA Alpine mint green and Alpine white. Some of them had been arrived on the property in the CTA's bicentennial paint scheme and with SEPTA logos slapped on. And actually, they kind of coordinated, so it wasn't too bad. And then they too received the official SEPTA scheme, and again, that did not look too bad on the cars. This is over at Victory Avenue, Yard, 1989. And then, of course, you know, some event that was dear to many of us, the Red Arrow line bought the electroliners. The rumor at the time was that they were going to extend service to Downington, and they wanted to have a, you know, these would be ideal. You could have you know, serve donuts and coffee in the morning and hard liquor in the afternoon for the weary commuters on their way home. And this is the just after arrived in over at Bridgeport in late 1963. Has not been obviously it's going to go into the shop to get to be refurbished and modified for operation over the P&W. And they certainly went out and did a nice job of publicizing the new service. And unfortunately, these cars never really fit the property. They were a real problem for the substations. And when you're used to these slick, smooth riding trains on the North Shore, they did not operate that way on the Red Arrow. An interesting picture here. Unfortunately, I wish it was a better definition, but when these cars are repainted in the Liberty Liner paint scheme, they still have step wells, and those were cut away after they have been repainted. So here we are in the first liner here in about 1964, just going into service. Was at speed in May. Believe it or not, there was still snow there. And this is over by the Ardmore, by the 69th Street Terminal. And they did restore and operate maintain and operate the Tavern Lounge car, and it was very much just like you were back on the North Shore line with the little animals all dancing above on the walls above everybody. And then later on, in later years, obviously you could see the paint was beginning to fade. When SEPTA took over, all they did was paste over their logo and put another logo off to the side. But days were numbered. This is in at 69th Street, 1972. I went out there in 1976 and rode what it ended up hit on the last electrical line that I had ridden on the North Shore a week before abandonment, unit numbers 801, 802, and that was the unit that was in service that day. And July of 76, it made one round trip, and I was amazed that they still the guys set up in the Tavern Lounge car to sell drinks and everything else. But it was really kind of mixed feelings on it. It was nice to see it again, but circumstances were different. Interior of the Liberty liner, it's kind of gray upholstery, but they were as you can see, they're kind of looking a little worn, but still they were saved. They were really nice cars. We're glad that everybody always, when they see Merritt Taylor, they always say thank you for saving these. Now the last group here. Our friend Russ Jackson helped the design of these. These were Type N5s, built in 1993, 26 cars. Had some heft to them because they were 82,000 pounds. And you hear of 152 at Bryn Mawr back in going back to November 2016. Interior of these cars, I see all the happy and content commuters on board. These are actually big cars and comfortable seats. And 446 here in 1956, and then of course later on that was returned to its original form. And the view here at the shops. And you get an idea of the Norristown line. Here's the 72nd Street shops. This area here of Victory Avenue bus facility. There used to be a Y here to turn the Lehigh Valley Transit cars. And here's the the Red Arrow, the Red Arrow streetcar suburban car terminal, and then the P&W coming on in here to the terminal to transfer over to the Market L. Good view here back in the days of LVT was still running, and this is at the terminal lead in August of 1949, just before LVT stopped running, and then after that they terminated at Norristown, and passengers had to transfer to the P&W and then transfer at 69th Street. You hear that one of my obviously it's nice that we can tell that was taken at 2:40 p.m. on January of 1977. I don't have the exact date. And like many facilities, this is was going to be a temporary terminal, and like South Shoreline's Randall Street Station, it became temporarily permanent until it was finally rebuilt. This view here shows everything here in 69th Street in 1949. And then as it was rebuilt in 1964 for the inauguration of the Liberty Liner service. Cars here at Buckley cars here at 69th Street in 1955. Number of bullets here, and I think this had been the Might have been the LVT track. And Stratford Cars, by then, same paint scheme. They just got the Philadelphia Suburban Transportation Company lettering on the letterboards. View here at 69th Street in December of 1959. There's a car in the original P&W colors and still lettered for P&W in 1949. These cars actually were fun to ride. Everybody talked about the Bullets, but these cars were had some pep to them as well. And I always like getting on them. And this just shows the at the time when they're getting ready to make the change to over from Lanark to over to 69th Street. This view here, I took this picture here in I think July of August of 1971. Here's an aerial view of the 72nd Street shops. And what's interesting, this track here used to be probably rebuilt, but it was at one time the track for the Lehigh Valley Transit trolley freight service. They had their freight house over here, and the express motors kept running even after passenger service was cut back. They continued running on into all the way into the 72nd Street trolley freight terminal until September of 1951. And as you see in this view, the LVT was still in service, as there was the Y for the LVT cars. They would have to they would come in, they have to back up, and then Y, then back on into the back into the station. And then here's 72nd Street. Okay, by now you can see the buses. The Y's been replaced, and we have all the Victory Avenue bus facilities in place. Another view here, and inbound at 72nd Street, and buses, same Bullets, newer buses. They're loading view here. They're loading a plow at the 72nd Street shops in 88, and we have a couple of Stratford cars. A Bullet is flanked by Stratford cars. And then we have a 401 and Lincar, and that was built by St. Louis in 1907. And behind that is the pickle car. And pickle car would be used to spray calcium chloride on the third rail to prevent freezing. There's a 1990 view. And a nice lineup of it's a 401 and a couple of Bullets with different paint schemes, and one of the Stratford cars. In this particular view, both of the liners were looks like they were out of service, and or could just be between runs at 72nd Street. In pretty good shape. And an interesting picture here, because you've got quite an array of equipment here, and you have one of the old Stratford cars on what had been the Lehigh Valley Transit, the LVT freight house track, two of the CTA flat door 6000s, a Bullet in the SEPTA scheme, Stratford car in the SEPTA scheme, and a Market Frankfurt M3. They had several of those. They were equipped with second-hand Port Authority Trans-Hudson standard gauge trucks, so we could operate over the P&W. Inside the shops is the 200 and nice fresh paint in June of 1977. Now, going out of the line here, Stratford Line, it opened on May 22nd, 1907, and it was abandoned on March 23rd, 1956, my 7th birthday. Ran a length of 10.6 miles. And this is pretty much what you would see. These were called the Stratford cars, because basically they held down the service on Stratford. And here are a couple of the cars in 1956. And last year of operation, up the line up there. And this is in service circa early 1950s, headed on out. And signed for Stratford. Ardmore, then make a stop at Ardmore Junction, March of 1952. As the traffic was never that heavy out there. Another view at Ardmore Junction, 1954. And later on, I could see when the where the Ardmore suburban trolley line had run along here. Then later on, that had become the Red Arrow Ardmore bus route, and this is how it's been rebuilt since then. That's the view today. We have number 401 was laying over by the Villanova substation. You see Villanova Junction, the tower, and at the time the line continued around to Stratford, and the other line branching off here to Norristown. Later on, 1969, as you see here, the line to Stratford has been long gone. It's been abandoned for 13 years. You have an inbound bullet going in from Norristown. Beyond the junction, Villanova Junction, was basically single track, lightly patronized. This is typical of one of the stations here at West Wayne in 1955. And Devon Avenue, in Pennsylvania, they know how to pronounce it correctly. In Chicago, we call it Devon Avenue, but if there's any possible way to mispronounce something, we will do it in Illinois. So just be forewarned. And there is a good reason. Here's 163 coming into he's coming here, he's leaving the Stratford station, and with the Pennsylvania Railroad main line over there, that was which gave the riders direct link into Center City, and that was why you never really had patrons was never very significant on this line. Another view, when they were leaving, they were heading in the opposite direction from where they're going to travel, and they turned around and headed the right way, and still, I was still learning for Philadelphia and Western, and it's early 1950s. View at the terminal. It's just a simple one track station there. And this is 1954. Obviously, it's a fan trip. That's the only time you'd ever see two cars in that station. And there is the reason for the light ridership. There's the Pennsy, is MP54s going directly into Center City. But it was kind of a picturesque line. It had its own charm. Now the Norristown line, that's still operating. It opened on August 26, 1912, 13.5 miles in length. And view here in 1978, we just had 164 and at 69th Street, the rebuilt terminal. And this is a view here looking over at the 72nd Street shops in 1965. So we have some of the older GSO, some of the older GM buses in place. And all the cars here are actually looking pretty good. This is number, this is number 200, I think. This is at Wynwood, 1960, two-car train. And an electroliner in 1972, southbound at Wynwood. Did I say electroliner? Liberty liner. And 207 here by Ardmore Junction. And again, at Ardmore Junction with a couple of the CTA flat door 6000s in service. I don't think they've been this is renumbered to 484 now, 1991 photo. Earlier review, we saw the liner and number 63 back in 1964. And as you see from that other shot, we saw that became the busway for the Ardmore bus service. And Bryn Mawr, the short-term trains here, 1962. Then we've got the N5s in service in a contemporary photograph. And 163 again, same area, but shows the different eras, different paint schemes, and cars in different conditions too. And current day view at Bryn Mawr. No, I'm sorry, that's approaching Rosemont, and that goes back to 06. There's another shot too. So there is typical view of the right of way. As at Garrett Hill, what's the sign I went on here as my first trip over the PW again in August 1971. And 478, 479, Garrett Hill then, and 22 years later, 1992. And we even have a pair of Almond Joys, M3s, bearing down at Garrett Hill. Two here is at Speed. I'm not sure whether that was the same spot where we had an earlier view of a Liberty liner when it was brand new. And same spot, winter time, 83. And there were very few areas of tangent track on the PNW. It was going in from one curve to another. And this is at Calvin Bridgeport, 1964. I was looking in fairly good paint there. This is at Conshohocken Road on a fan trip, and you can notice the somewhat crude lettering, but they obviously are the Philadelphia Norristown came alive for one more day there in 1983. 401 and earlier paint scheme, looking good there at Gulf in 1955. Nice view of the Liberty liner at Gulf Mills, 1966, John West photograph. And Hughes Park, 1989, and a nice view overall. And by then they were starting to rebuild some of the P&W's rickety old wood platforms and had concrete platforms and doing upgrades here and there. The view back in King Manor, one shot I took back in August 1971. And again, at Outbound train at King Manor, and older paint scheme, so it's lettered for Philadelphia and Western. And car here departing from King Manor, and I was taking this picture. I was brought back to my days being over near the CA&E tracks in Chicago, because I heard some kid who was over by the fence, and my mother was yelling at him, "Stay off those tracks! It's a P&W, you'll get electrocuted." And that's basically what they used to say to us along the Aurora and Elgin. And we have the N5 here at Bridgeport in 2016. Liberty liner, about many years earlier, 1970. And view from the terminal at Norristown, good distance shot of the train over the Schuylkill River. You always wanted dramatic shots. This is a good place to go. This is in 1978. Great view. You get a whole profile of the entire Liberty line around the bridge. J. David Ingalls picture. Norristown Terminals. Over the years, they had various locations, and first one was at Swede Street, when they terminated in the street from 1912 to 1931. Then they opened, with the arrival of the bullets, they opened a new terminal at Main Street and Swede Street, and that was in operation from 1931 to 1989. Then the final version is here at Norristown Transportation Center, 1989 to the present. And this is 164 up at Swede and Main Streets, back in June of '78. And a couple of the flat door 6000s, the same location. And even a Liberty liner, which of course, as I say, did not quite fit the railroad. This is 1972. And as you can see, when the new Norristown Transportation Center was open, it just moved up away. And this is where the site of the old terminal, and you'll see the markings on the side where the platforms and the sheds had been. You here with at the 476 at the new Norristown Terminal. Everything here actually looks pretty nice and bright, well painted and clean. Just a view of the present location of the what had been the suburban SEPTA suburban service on what had been the Reading coming into heading into Center City. They could also exchange with the buses, and also with the P&W, the Norristown division at the new location, and then going over the bridge over to the Schuylkill. This is that the original terminal looked like over on Swede Street, and this is a P&W train terminating in the middle of the street, and with a looks like a red arrow 700 right behind it. And then these cars would go up onto a ramp and then onto the third rail. You hear from probably about 1950, and it's on Erie Street in March of 1950. This building here, the Rambo House, it was still you can still see it in here in the earlier view, and then it was still around then. This is after the LDT had cut back its service to Norristown. So this car here, he is just looped, reversed over at the Wrinkle Loop, and then he's backing up on into the Norristown station. He's going to ascend the ramp, and then he'll change poles and then head outbound to Allentown. Now we have some survivors. 208 here is over at Scranton. Golden shot, and gives you a good view here of that with the I think it was the 401 there. And Scranton also has an 80 series car with they can have they give you a good nice long run, and then of course the Steamtown is adjacent to this museum. And again over at Scranton with the there's Electric City Trolley Museum, I believe. And they also have a center door car in operation. And it's a pleasant ride. You know, again, when things return to normal, get out and take a ride, enjoy it. And across here is 78 out at our Pennsylvania Trolley Museum, and it's returned to its original configuration with the high window, which wasn't blocked off. And there's a letter for Philadelphia and Westchester Traction Company, and did a really nice job on that. And both of the Liberty liners survived. This one is over at Rock Hill Furnace in 2014. Obviously, it's going to need a lot of work on the body, but mechanically, they got it back to operating condition. So let's hope for the best. And then one came home, and there it is. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we can. I will start my video, and we can go on to whatever else we want to do.
Wonderful. So before anybody leaves, thank you so much, John. You are welcome to turn on your videos. I'll let everybody unmute in just a second here. But if you can't turn on your video, let me know, because I did stop a couple people's. So if you can't, just let me know and I'll let you do that. But before anyone leaves, I want to let everybody know what's coming up. 2 weeks from today, March 9th, Philip Sauerländer, a volunteer at Rock Hill Trolley Museum, will be presenting a Trolley Watches show, which will be something different and exciting. And we'll also have Cleveland Transit, and Russ Jackson, who's here tonight, will be showing some film and some slides, I believe, on April 7th. We've got things scheduled into May, so including PCC restoration, and also what else do we have? A Cincinnati program. So there's a lot to look forward to. And our opening weekend, I mentioned, will be April 2nd and 3rd. We're going to operate Fridays through Sundays at first, and then expand to Thursdays in the summertime, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we're really looking forward to seeing everybody when we reopen. We'll still have all of our COVID protocols in place, and but it should be fun, and we've all got our fingers crossed. I know all the museum folks out there do too, for a better year this year. And again, thank you for joining us. If you'd like to make a donation, you can visit patrolley.org/support. And I'll put a link in the chat to that as well. But again, we have a Trolleyology roughly every 2 weeks through May. And this is a great way to interact with people near and far. And I want to thank everybody again for coming today. And if you did enjoy the program, yeah, consider making a donation. And let's see. Right now, I am going to figure out how to let everyone unmute. And we're getting tons of positive feedback in the chat. So thank you very much to John. Mute all. Allow participants to unmute themselves. All right, everybody. So you should be able to unmute yourselves if you have any questions or comments for John. We did have a lot of questions in the chat that were answered. And we had a lot of color commentary from some folks who are really familiar with the line. So thanks for all those comments too.
So, Kristen, could you send me a copy of that?
Sure.
Yeah, okay, great. Appreciate reading it.
Very good for an out-of-towner, John.
Yeah, right. I've been there for 8 years. What the heck, you know? It was fun being. It's always fun. It's always fun to do these presentations.
Well, it's nice to look at an operation that's still running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, here we have nothing really. It's the desert.
Somebody raised the question about South Shore's cars, and they're really a modified railroad car. I wouldn't call them an interurban car in the sense. You may disagree, but South Shore cars never appealed to me when the North Shore was running, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's it's just, yeah, North Shore, Roar and Elgin, and
Yeah.
South Shore became fun because it was left. They
Still
did
there.
they did have really noisy motors though, so it didn't make the right noise when they go, especially when they're going over the streets of Michigan City. So,
The P&W is often called heavy rail subway line because of that little platform.
It's a commuter railroad, really.
yeah.
What you got there, Alan?
Oh, there we go.
Alan, Milazzo.
And that signal was set to, okay.
Here, let me stop
You
sharing.
see it?
Let me stop sharing.
Yeah, trains will not stop, and we'll signal was set to four down. There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
For years after the LVT quit, if you got off the L train at 69th Street, there was still a sign that told you where to go to the cars to Allentown. I don't know if anybody remembers that but me.
Yeah.
Yep, I remember it.
Uh-huh.
I may have got a shot of it.
You remember there used to be all the those traffic lights on the median Sharon Hill line, those 2 aspect traffic lights? I remember somebody was selling those things.
Yeah, that's gone through several cycles. You had gates, and then they didn't like the communities out there didn't like having the gates, so the gates got replaced by lights. And there's obviously no intent to make anything fast out there anymore, and the P&W is now down to 55 miles an hour. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
How long did the Ardmore busway last?
It's still there. It
Well-
was built in about a year and a half after the trolley service stopped. The ridership had really tanked because of the circuitous routing.
Well, the other thing was, when you put gates down to keep cars from crossing a railroad, that's one thing. When you put gates down to keep hot rodders from riding on your busway, guess what happens to the gates?
Yeah.
It didn't take too long before the gates were inoperative. And if you go there today, they're not even there anymore. So, you know,
Of course, the bus service is so sporadic now.
yeah, I mean, it's. But
The one thing I didn't see was the, didn't they have a fishbowl, that bus that had the rail wheels?
Yeah, you can find, somebody's got that on the web,
Yeah.
on YouTube. You can find something on that.
Yeah.
They had a broad gauge rail bus and a standard gauge rail bus. One ran on the P&W and the other ran on the trolleys.
Wow.
And Connecticut company had a couple of them. And we ran one at Branford. I have slides of one of those things running on the Branford line. And when they were still running the line to Newtown, I guess it was, which is gone now. And I, at one meeting with Dave Gunn, I said, you know, Dave, Connecticut would be glad to sell you a couple of rail buses. You could run those up there, and for maintenance, you just lift up the rail wheels and run down to the bus shop at, you know, and no, they didn't do that. So now you have a path.
They tried the standard gauge one in Washington to Baltimore. They got a bunch of congressmen and congressional aides.
Well, that's where the whole thing got off the rails, because it couldn't run in the snow.
Would not run in the snow, and they got into the suburbs of DC after, I think, several hours, and they
Yeah,
gave
well.
it up. Thank God.
Apparently on the one that they ran to Hughes Park, there was a huge amount of wheel spin, and the odometer showed for that trip, which I guess is about 10 miles, almost 50 miles.
Yeah, Merritt Jr. was a nice guy and all that, and he's been great with the museum, but really the property was not run very brilliantly.
Yeah.
You might remember at one point he wanted to build a monorail to Media.
Yeah.
And then you had the buses, and it was not very swift. And the fans tried to get Red Arrow to buy the Illinois terminal cars, because one of the reasons Ardmore quit was because they were short. They didn't have enough cars. The traffic was really climbing on the rest of the system, and they didn't have enough cars. So one way of getting rid of the last two-man rolling stock was to abandon Ardmore. Had they got the Illinois terminal cars, Ardmore might still be running, although the issue with the situation on the Pike might not
Well,
work. Anyway.
the Pike work was finished when Ardmore was still running, Russ.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, out as far as
Yeah.
Westgate, I think.
I just want to say we're lucky to have so many experts on this Zoom. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, well,
It's a panel of experts.
I'd rather be a fan than an expert.
Yeah. We were looking at we were talking about the rail bus. First and Fastest a few issues ago, a really nice article by Bruce Moffat when Aurora and Elgin actually got a rail bus, and they were thinking of possibly using this on the Geneva St. Charles branch, but nothing ever came of it. There's a picture of it over at the Wheaton station, and that was really where it went. But it was one of these ones where just again it was a nice idea, but it was just not practical.
Yeah, it was an interesting. When you ride media today, you say, "My God, you could never get anybody to let you build this thing through their backyards today."
Yeah, that's
Totally
Except a lot of it wasn't
You
through
want-
back. A lot of it was rural. A lot of those backyards were built GI Bill.
Yeah, but if you wanted to build the media line today through people's backyards, good luck.
I'd like to ask Rich Ullman if he caught that slide that was marked Westgate Hills that is really in Broomall.
Yes, that slide was at Broomall. That was at Sproul Road and Westchester Pike.
Or
That one, that was Brookthorpe Hills. That was the longest siding on the line. It was the first siding west of Westgate Hills.
And it was at
about
the
a mile long.
pictures at the western end near what's Church Road. But I've seen that picture many times mislabeled the same way. So
As Westgate Hills?
yeah.
That's called a consistent error. Yeah.
Well, Rich, you know the line better than I. That's for sure. And when in April when we run the McLean,
We'll do a dress rehearsal.
the McLean's films, you can be the narrator, because I'm not going to rearrange all that film to get it geographic. And I don't know the line well enough to do that. But it's gorgeous photography, and it's like writing the line again. But I'll leave it up to you to tell us where we are.
Maybe we ought to look at it some evening beforehand, and
We can do that. Yeah.
I can just get you scripted.
Well, I don't want the work of trying to retake all those shots.
I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just going to tell you what it is, and then you'll know.
You guys are giving everybody spoilers for this upcoming presentation.
One way to do it is we'll run it and you can speak into, I'll bring my recorder and you can tell me where we are.
Yeah.
And that can always.
If you're willing to accept it, I'll sometimes say, I don't know.
Well.
You know what?
That's off. That's off.
Yeah, I was gonna say everybody is very patient in the era of Zoom, which I say all the time, but everybody is, has kind of learned this stuff together, and Rich and Russ, we can do a practice session or something together at some point. Do we have any other questions or comments for John?
No, thank you, John. I'm going to go watch the rest of the Villanova game.
Okay, very good.
I got a question.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate all your work.
I've
It's
got
a lot of
question.
work.
Just want to let you know we are trying to get the CERA Atlantic City book out to everybody by April. So just so you know about that. And anyway,
Excellent.
thank you, guys.
Okay.
Got a question. One more question.
Okay.
Since SEPTA took over the Red Arrow, has there ever been any discussion about getting back to Westchester? Any speculation? Any politicians?
No, because you got a 4-lane highway out there now, and there's no place to put any rail.
Yeah.
When they 4-laned it for the first section out of 69th Street, and Rich can remember that too, they had to take people's front lawns. And there was a real hoorah back when they added those extra 2 lanes on the other side of the tracks, because they took a lot of people's front lawns off. Beyond that, but beyond there was, the trackway became part of the road. You don't have any place out there to put tracks back. So I don't know what traffic on the bus line is like. The bus doesn't make the trolley running time, which is even in off hours. And I don't know how the traffic is held up, but it's still one of their busiest bus routes. But you got traffic lights all the way out. You could never, when you see the movie of the cars zipping along at 50, 55 miles an hour, you realize you could never do that anymore. I mean, no way.
I understand. I understand there was a lot of pressure to close Westchester Line because of accidents at crossings.
Not that I know of. They were running a 15-minute headway on Saturday, and traffic was going up, but you've got the Blue Route, you've had other road improvements, and so I don't know how the traffic on the bus is compared to what it used to be on the trolleys.
Well, the company produced a black and white film that they showed the public after the war when cars became more prevalent. And one of the reasons was that there were people coming out of their driveways and out of their sideways.
Yeah, you couldn't have a side of the road line today. You'd have to have it out in the center.
That was the company made an effort. Like the end of the movie shows a cemetery. This is where you'll end up if you hit one of our trolleys hits you.
Yeah. Now you'd have had to have been on a reservation to continue out that all the way out. There's no way you couldn't stay side of the road. When you see the movies, you'll certainly get a feel for that. It would be impossible.
All right. Okay, guys. Well, good seeing everybody again, and we'll have some other things coming up at CERA as well. So, and
where can people learn more about CERA?
Well, on our website, but just.
I'm going to go see my bride. Good night.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Take care. Good
All
night.
right. Thank you, everybody. For
See ya.
All right.
We hope to see you again soon.
Hi.
Bye.
Hi.